Boomers are sitting on a mountain of cash, and they're not letting go anytime soon. If you've ever wondered why it feels like older generations have all the money, that's because they do. While younger generations are grinding away, boomers are cashing in on decades of booming markets, rising home values, and solid career stability. According to Visual Capitalist, this generation's wealth has exploded while younger generations struggle to catch up. Right now, baby boomers hold over half of the U.S. $156 trillion in assets. That's despite making up just 21% of the population. This isn't just about numbers. This is about how generational wealth shifts affects housing, investments, retirement, and even future inheritances. Let's break it all down and see what this means for your financial future. Check out the full details by visiting the link in the description. Boomers' wealth has exploded over the decades. Boomers weren't always on top. Back in 1990, they held just $4.5 trillion in assets. Fast forward to 2023, and that number has skyrocketed to $78 trillion. That's not just growth, that's domination. Timing played a major role. Boomers built their fortunes during some of the biggest economic booms in history. They bought property when it was dirt cheap, stacked up retirement accounts, and benefited from company pensions that barely exist today. Meanwhile, younger generations are still trying to catch up. Millennials and Gen Z face a brutal combination of student debt, skyrocketing home prices, and a labor market that doesn't reward loyalty the way it used to. With boomers still holding the bulk of the nation's assets, their financial influence remains stronger than ever. Even as they hit retirement, their investments, property holdings, and financial security continue to put them miles ahead of the younger workforce. Who owns what? Generational wealth breakdown. Let's put the numbers on the table. Boomers control $78 trillion, giving them nearly half of all wealth in the country. Gen X is doing better than previous generations did at their age, sitting on $46 trillion, or 29.5% of total assets. Millennials, despite being in their prime working years, are holding just $13 trillion, a mere 8.5%. The silent generation, many of whom are already retired, still have $19 trillion, or 11.9%. Boomers had time, luck, and economic conditions on their side. The numbers don't lie. Wealth isn't evenly distributed, and it never has been. Boomers are dominating the housing market again. For a while, millennials were leading the home buying surge, but boomers are back on top. According to the National Association of Realtors' latest report, boomers accounted for 42% of all home purchases and 53% of sales, the highest of any generation. That means they're not just buying homes, they're dictating the market. Boomers are either cashing in on decades of home appreciation or doubling down on real estate. For millennials, homeownership has become an uphill battle. Prices are at record highs, mortgage rates are punishing, and down payments feel impossible. Meanwhile, boomers are walking into deals with decades of built-up equity and little competition from their own generation. This isn't a temporary trend. Boomers, unlike previous generations of retirees, aren't in a rush to downsize. Many are staying in place longer, keeping the housing supply tight and prices high. Their financial assets are still growing. If you thought boomers were done accumulating wealth, think again. Deloitte projects that baby boomers' financial assets will peak at $26 trillion by 2029, up from $17 trillion in 2015. They aren't just holding on, they're still growing their fortunes well into retirement. A big part of this comes down to investment power. Boomers own the bulk of the stock market, meaning every market rally disproportionately benefits them. They're not just surviving on Social Security, they're earning passive income from dividends, bonds, and rental properties. This isn't just about having money, it's about maintaining control. Boomers, even in retirement, will continue shaping financial markets, real estate trends, and investment opportunities for years to come. If you want to understand the future of money, you need to understand the generation that still has most of it. Gen X, the next wealth holders, but with a catch. Gen X is next in line for financial dominance, but it's not going to be an easy ride. Right now, they hold $46 trillion in wealth, making up nearly 30% of total assets. That number is set to climb to $22 trillion in financial assets alone within the next decade. Sounds impressive, but here's the catch. They still have a mountain to climb before they reach the level boomers are at. They're earning more than any other generation, but they've got less time to let their investments grow. Many are still paying off mortgages, funding college tuition for their kids, and scrambling to build retirement savings. Gen X also dealt with the dot-com bubble, the 2008 crash, and a housing market that made homeownership far more expensive than it was in the 80s and 90s. There's also the issue of timing. The closer retirement gets, the less time they have to recover from market downturns. If the economy takes a hit in the next decade, they won't have the luxury of waiting it out like boomers did in their prime earning years. For Gen X, the challenge isn't just making money, it's making enough before the clock runs out. Millennials and Gen Z facing a different financial reality. Millennials entered adulthood at the worst possible time. Student loans, skyrocketing housing costs, and an economy that didn't deliver on the American dream made wealth building a grind. They've had to fight for every dollar, and it shows. Despite being in their 30s and 40s, they control just $13 trillion, only 8.5% of total wealth. They're working harder than previous generations but aren't seeing the same returns. Homeownership is tougher, wages haven't kept up with inflation, and savings accounts barely move the needle. Unlike boomers who could afford homes on a single income, millennials often need two high-paying salaries just to stay afloat. Gen Z is still in the early stages, but the trend isn't looking much better. Many are already drowning in debt before hitting their first high-paying job. The cost of education keeps climbing, rent is out of control, and inflation is eating into any savings they manage to build. The rules have changed. The old blueprint for financial success, get a degree, land a stable job, buy a home, doesn't work like it used to. Younger generations have to be more strategic, more aggressive, and more adaptable just to keep pace with the shifting economic landscape. The $84 trillion wealth transfer is coming. Boomers won't hold on to their money forever. Over the next few decades, an estimated $84 trillion will move into the hands of Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z. That's the largest wealth transfer in history, and it's already starting. Cerulli Associates predicts that $73 trillion will go directly to heirs, while $11 trillion could end up in charitable donations. But just because money is moving doesn't mean it's going to even out the wealth gap overnight. Not every boomer is passing down fortunes. Many will need to spend their savings on healthcare, long-term care, and rising costs of living. Others might have multiple heirs splitting an inheritance, diluting its financial impact. Younger generations are banking on this transfer to ease financial struggles, but waiting for an inheritance isn't a strategy. The transfer will create new opportunities, but it won't magically fix years of economic imbalance. What happens when boomers start spending down? Boomers have been accumulating wealth for decades, but retirement changes the game. Many will start tapping into their savings, shifting money out of investments and into daily expenses. This isn't just a personal finance issue. It has major implications for markets, housing, and the overall economy. As boomers downsize or move into retirement communities, more homes will hit the market. The problem? They're not selling fast enough. Many are choosing to stay put longer, limiting housing supply and keeping prices high. That leaves younger buyers stuck waiting, hoping for more inventory to open up. Investment markets will feel the shift too. Boomers currently hold a massive amount of assets in stocks, bonds, and retirement accounts. As they start withdrawing, market dynamics will change. More selling pressure, fewer new investments, and shifting financial priorities could make long-term investing riskier for younger generations. Healthcare costs are another wildcard. Longer life expectancy means boomers need their money to last. Rising medical expenses and long-term care will eat into their wealth, forcing tough decisions on spending, investing, and legacy planning. Could Gen X and Millennials ever catch up? Catching up isn't impossible, but it won't be easy. Gen X is making progress, but the gap is still wide. Millennials have time, but they need the right financial conditions to build serious wealth. Economic trends, wages, and investment opportunities will determine how much ground they can cover. Real estate, stock market performance, and technological advancements will all play a role. If housing prices stabilize, younger buyers will have a better shot at homeownership. If wages grow at a stronger pace, savings rates will improve. If new industries create high-paying jobs, wealth building will accelerate. It's not just about earning more, it's about making smarter financial moves. Those who invest early, manage debt effectively, and prioritize wealth building will stand a better chance at closing the gap. It won't happen overnight, but the shift is possible for those who take action now. What this means for you. If you're a boomer, your wealth isn't just about you anymore. Estate planning, investment strategies, and long-term financial security matter not just for you, but for the next generation. Without a solid plan, taxes, fees, and poor decisions could shrink what you've spent decades building. If you're Gen X or a millennial, knowing where the money is gives you an edge. Understanding wealth trends helps with smarter investments, better home buying decisions, and career moves that actually pay off. The system isn't designed to make things easy, but those who take control of their financial future will always come out ahead. The money is moving. Are you ready? Boomers built the wealth, but they won't hold on to it forever. Estate plans, smart investing, and strategic spending will decide how much actually gets passed down. Gen X and millennials aren't just waiting for their share. They're making moves in real estate, the stock market, and business to secure their own future. The biggest wealth shift in history is already in motion, and those paying attention will be the ones who benefit. Money doesn't just disappear, it changes hands. Wealth shifts are happening. Are you paying attention? Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget the link in the description.